Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be learning how to draw 5 basic flowers. This is a very easy sketching tutorial on Procreate. We'll be using the Procreate app, my iPad, and an Apple Pencil. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so jumping right in, I have a square canvas. This is the 2048 by 2048 pixel canvas. And I'm going to go ahead and just jump in and start drawing. I'm using the 6B pencil brush under Sketches and Procreate. The first thing I want to do is I want to sketch out an angled oval. Essentially, what I want with this is that this is going to help me understand the direction of the flower that I'm making. And then I'm going to add the center of the flower. I want this to be almost a stretched out circle, if you will. And it does take some time practicing back and forth. As you can see, if I don't like something, I erase it or reverse my action and keep going. This will help me understand where the petals are coming out from and making sure it looks like the drawing itself just makes sense, because you want the petal to face the center. That's a very, very important part of all of this. So now I have the center of the flower, I drew out the stem, and now I'm going to go ahead and start sketching the petals. The way we want it to draw it is that it's a little bit more narrow on the base, and then it becomes a bit wider on the top. So you can see long oval type shapes, and then every petal, the edge is always touching the boundary of the bigger oval we created. One of the other things I really want to emphasize is to make sure you keep practicing. Oftentimes, we're easy to give up when the drawing doesn't really go our way, but honestly, just keep practicing. Another tip I would recommend is going on Pinterest and checking out actual pictures of flowers. That also helps you see how the petals curve, what they look like in nature, and then you can use basic shapes to build something similar. All right, so now, as you can see, I added a little bit of a fold to the petal. This is just to signify that the petal is turned inward. You might want to add these little curves. Whenever you're creating other petals that are facing that are closer to you, it creates the image or just the look that the petal is facing away from you. It's a little bit curved, and it just gives it an extra dimension. So I really have a lot of fun going ahead and doing that. So we finish off the flower, majority of it, and now I'm just adding the finishing touches and the finishing shading. This also kind of helps me understand what my final flower is going to look like when I actually add some color. But in this tutorial, we're just focusing on just sketching the flowers, and maybe next time we'll talk a little bit more about coloring. Coloring often is a bit easier, but actually getting the image together is what we're going to be exploring in this tutorial. So as you can see, I'm going back in and adding a few extra folds here and there onto my flower to really signify and just add an extra dimension to the flower. All right, so now we are moving on to flower number 2. We're going to be creating a tulip here, and the first thing I'm going to do is going to start off by creating a longer oval. Again, just roughly sketching something out before adding the harder lines in. Then I'm going to be creating 2 other ovals that are not quite overlapping, but they are touching at the base and kind of slanted out. This is hopefully going to give that 3 petal dimension of the long leaves of a tulip. as I keep drawing this, I do go back and modify a few things here and there to make it look a bit slimmer. But again, this is your interpretation of a tulip. You can really add or remove some characteristics from it. So if you wanted to draw something a little bit different from what I'm drawing here, you could make the ovals a lot more slimmer, or you could make the ovals a lot more wider. It's really up to you. This is how I personally explore my style, is taking a really basic tutorial on, drawing flowers and adding little different characteristics to it. As you can see, I went back and slimmed down the flower just a bit because it was getting a bit too wide for me. And now I'm just going to add some basic leaves just to see how it looks. And with that, let's start drawing flower number 3. So for flower number 3, I'm going to draw some type of combination of a peony, but not really. The first petal I'm drawing is the petal that is facing away from us. So you usually draw this as like a half oval, like a really curved half oval where the inside is also curved a bit. So that kind of gives me a bit of a guidance about where I want the center of the flower to start. And then I'm going to be making these almost curved triangle pieces on the top to signify the other petals coming out. And just going to be moving that all the way around, adding some flowers to the base. Again, one of the things you want to think about is that if a petal is on the bottom, you're probably not going to see much of it. You're probably just going to be able to see the top of it. So that's what we're doing by creating shorter petals. You don't want your petals to all be the same size. And then for some of the other petals that I'm making, I'm adding a little bit more of a point to it. So as you can see, the bottom 2 petals I just made, I've added a bit of a point to them. Now I'm going back in and adding some of that shading elements similar to what we did with the first flower. All right, starting flower number 4. So we are actually going to be making a little bit more of a conservative rose here. And we're going to start that off by drawing a circular base. So draw a circle on the bottom and then an oval on the top. This kind of represents the main structure of the flower that we will be putting together. So again, I love Procreate because if you kind of misalign things, you can just use the selection tool and move it around a bit. So that's what I did there. Now connecting the edges of the oval that we made on the top and then the circle on the bottom, this kind of creates the first base of the rose. Now that we have that sketched, I'm going to work on creating the spiral piece. This can get kind of tricky, but think of it as a folded ribbon. You can also do this with the paper that you have in front of you. If you were to roll it and fold it, how does it look from the side? And that will kind of give you an idea of how to draw the connecting lines for the rose that we're making here. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and add the petals on the side. These are like vertically falling off, so they're at a bit of a slant. And then we also want to kind of curve the top as well to make it look like a leaf or a petal is ruffled from the top essentially. So I'm creating 2 of those, one on each side, and maybe going back and adding a bit of an overlap. We'll see how that goes. All right, so now I've made some room for the last flower we're gonna draw. This is I guess this, you could call this the California poppy. This one is a little bit different from what we were making before. So we're gonna start off by drawing a circle to represent the center, and this just helps me understand what direction I need the petals to face, essentially back into the center. And then I'm also going ahead and adding those small details. Oftentimes people like to go back and add the small details like at the end after they've drawn the flower, but I prefer to do that, at least for this part, ahead of time. So I'm going ahead adding those details in. All right, now it's time to sketch the petals. So there's going to be two that are closest to us, two petals that are closest to us that are going to be facing inward, right? So we're only going to be seeing the back side of the petal, and then the petals of the back, we'll see a bit more of them, essentially. So as you can see, I drew two petals on the side, again, half circles curved, and then a bit more of a peak on the petals in the back. And I'm just going in with my eraser, just erasing the centerpiece that kind of was overlapping with it. So this is a little closer look of what it looks like. And then I also decided that I wanted to add or create another flower, the same one, but a little bit different in the sense that I'm drawing the petals first and then going in and adding the center afterwards. So you can see here that there's two petals in the front and then two petals in the back. And it's a bit of a flat flower if you really think about it. But that's just the design and style that I'm going for. And there it is, folks. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and give me a like, and I will catch you next time.